And I want to ask you because I think that Bezos definitely deserves blame. Amazon, Boeing, General Motors, we could go down the list. But I mean, the politicians, Democratic Party nationally, state level, I mean, ultimately they make a choice.
And the city also.
Right. You make a choice. What kind of people are you trying to bring in and what kind of jobs? So I don't begrudge the person making, $150,000 as a tech engineer or software developer at Amazon. That doesn't make you a bad person. But the city, it's kind of like NAFTA. We've seen people like Trump win because people are economically furious and desperate. There's never a notion of, okay, we're going to create NAFTA and these trade deals or bring in Amazon and all these jobs, but there's no contingency plan for the displaced. So what role does the city government here, the state government? Seattle is progressive in many ways, but it also has no income tax. It seems like these politicians are allowing Jeff Bezos and Amazon to do this.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. We cannot really tell the whole story if you only about capitalism and how it works for different people. If you only talk about the billionaires and the big corporations and big businesses, you also have to talk about the fact that in a society that is deeply unequal, as capitalism is, that deep inequality means not only a chasm in wealth between the few and the many, but also it means a complete divide in political power and influence and clout. So that means that for the most part, politics, whether it's at the city level, county, state, or federal level, serves the greed of billionaires and not the needs of the many. And certainly, you have just absolute horror stories of what happens in Congress, and Congress's popularity among ordinary people we know is lower than the popularity of cockroaches. And I'm not even making this up. We actually have polls that show that people are absolutely and justifiably disgusted with corporate politicians of both parties, Republicans and Democrats. But I want to also share a picture that it's no different at the city level. The issues are less known nationally, but if you look at what happens in Seattle, any victory that we have won since my taking office in 2014 as an open socialist, as somebody who rejected corporate donations and who has never taken money from big business, the only reason we have won any victory, whether it is the $15 an hour minimum wage, which Seattle was the first big city to win, whether it is many of the renters' rights we have won, or this struggle that we are conducting now for affordable housing, the reason we have won anything is because ordinary people got organized and fought back against the majority of the politicians in City Hall, not with their support. So in other words, you have Congress members and you have a president that represents big business, while in city council, the mayor of Seattle is Jenny Durkin, who's a woman, who's an LGBTQ member. Does she serve the LGBTQ community and the vast majority of women who are struggling? No, absolutely not. When she ran for office in 2017, Amazon alone gave her campaign $350,000. This is for a city campaign. Mm-hmm. And you see Comcast and CenturyLink giving massive amounts of money to her and many Democratic mayors throughout in cities throughout the country. Why? Because they don't want ordinary people winning municipal broadband, because they want to protect their profits. So you see this same story that you see in Congress and in the presidency, similar stories you see at the state level and at the city level, with the vast majority of corporations serving the interests of big business. And one other thing I would be remiss to not mention is that in Seattle, you don't have a Republican Party to speak of. I mean, obviously there are Republican politicians and in the county level and the state level who live in Seattle, obviously, and there are people who identify as Republican. But if you look at the city council and the mayor's office, they are all Democrats, every single one of them, except for me, who's a socialist. So who has presided over this massive crisis of homelessness and affordable housing crisis? It's the Democrats who have presided over this. The Democrats who have given sweetheart deals to Amazon. Ordinary people and my office, we fought for the Amazon tax last year, which was a tax on big business, the 3% largest businesses in the city, not small businesses, to fund affordable housing. Who do you think repealed that tax less than a month after passing it? It was a Democratic Party politicians. So in other words, we are, as a socialist, I would always emphasize that not only in individual struggles do you have to be independent of corporate politicians. We need to bring these struggles together and build a working class party that we can run our own candidates from. And in fact, I would, we are excited about Bernie Sanders running, but I have said repeatedly that Bernie Sanders needs to run independent because the Democratic establishment will never allow his agenda.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you bigger picture, because Amazon, I mean, it's kind of like you could have organizing, but Amazon bought the Washington Post. Amazon, I just heard an example today where they made the Atlantic take a piece off that was critical of them. Amazon has a $600 million contract with the CIA. They have contracts with the Pentagon.
Right.
We've already spoken about their effect over city council. So if they have their tentacles, and Amazon, General Motors has power, Walmart has power. If all these corporations have essentially bought the government and kind of, in some ways, are connected to the military, how does the ordinary citizen fight back to win? Because you were talking about earlier, we need to win. It's not enough just to organize. We need to start having those small victories build up. How do you take on an Amazon so that places like Seattle don't basically become just latte sipping tech utopias?
I think that's like really goes to the center of why we should even get organized, because if you're not going to win, what's the point of organizing? And I think if you look at the recent past and even throughout history, the cases where social movements won victories was when they didn't just get organized, but there was a certain political clarity among the activists in the movement, and the activists are ordinary people who become activists. A political clarity about who's on your side and who's not. So in other words, when we were fighting for the $15 minimum wage or for the many renters' rights victories that we have won, the starting point often is ordinary people, they want to be good people, and and actually most people are actually good people and nice people, but they don't want to say anything antagonistic about big business or about corporate politicians. So the starting point of most movements is, let's bring everyone together and see if we can solve this problem. But through the course of the movement, ordinary people get that, wait a second, these politicians are not on our side. Amazon is not going to be on our side to tax Amazon and build social housing. Amazon is going to fight any attempt to tax them tooth and nail. So it's when movements attain that clarity about who's on your side, who's not, and because we need to fight against such powerful Goliaths, we need to build a fighting movement. So when we understand as a movement that we need to fight, it's not just about asking rational things. You can ask rational things till you're blue in the face and you won't win anything under capitalism. It's when you get organized and you fight back, meaning have protest marches on the street. You have workplace actions, work stoppages by working class people and by the labor movement. You have hundreds of people showing up in City Hall and shutting down meetings. In fact, there was an attempt, just an example, in 2016, there was an attempt by the city government, this is the Democrats, to build $160,000 new police precinct, which activists call the bunker, because that's what it amounted to. I mean, the city has a major problem of racist policing. And it was just galling that the Democrats would say, in a city that is facing homelessness and affordable housing crisis, the best use you can think of for $160 million is to build a fancy new building for the police department that is on a Department of Justice consent decree for racist policing and excessive use of force. These activists, the Block the Bunker activists, shut down city council meetings, and I was on their side, and we fought and successfully blocked the bunker, and we were able to win 29 of those $160 million for affordable housing, and some of those affordable housing homes are right here in this district. And so you see examples of how we can win. Another example I will say is, Amazon obviously seems all powerful. It has incredible power. You gave a really good synopsis of the kind of power and tentacles they have and Jeff Bezos have. But what happened recently? With all that power that Amazon has, they could not they could not be victorious against the ordinary people of New York City, who said there is no way that our government is going to give $3 billion of a sweetheart deal to Bezos, which was supposed to include a private helipad or something like that, to Bezos and Amazon. And Amazon was forced to back out, and the corporate politicians on the New York City Council were forced to, even if they didn't want to, were forced to stand with ordinary people. That's what you can achieve, but in order to do that, you have to have determination. Another example from your home city, actually, New York City, the New York City Taxi Drivers Alliance, which united taxi drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers together, and they won an incredible victory last year. I mean, they not only won $15 an hour, they actually also won the promise from Uber that they would have to actually be compensated for when there were low periods of ridership. I mean, this is an incredible victory against Uber, which is another seemingly all-powerful corporation.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.